This podcast is an invitation to feel and experience the souls of famous old Hollywood homes and to have an in-depth journey to the areas where they're located through interviews with longtime residents. Either you're a fan of old Hollywood in Los Angeles, planning to have a vacation, or, an even bigger step, considering a certain area for your future home. This is your opportunity to receive valuable information and insightful advice you won't find anywhere else.
Hello, and welcome to my podcast. Are you in the mood for California? Today we'll explore and feel Irvine, followed by an interview with wonderful Biff Baker, who will share with us what it feels like to live in this area.
Then we moved to Turtle Rock Meadows, what's now called Turtle Rock Meadows, which is not that far away from University Hills. And it's a neighborhood right on the edge of the wilderness, if you will. You cross, if you walk maybe 5 minutes from where we live and you're in the middle of the Chaparral. It's a short walk to Bomber Canyon. And then up the hill from us is a very different neighborhood, the Quail Hill neighborhood. So that's where we are now. And there, the key to making friends and forming community is not so much a baby as it is a dog. So if you go walking a dog, then you will meet other people and form a community. And so that's pretty much how we have tended to make our communities. And there are lots of friendly people around.
Masha Korpacheva is a California-based realtor and a member of the National Association of Realtors in Los Angeles. She's an advocate for selling and buying homes with soul and practicing mindfulness in real estate. With master's degrees in spiritual psychology and linguistics, Masha brings all of her skills to work with her clients. An intuit and empath, she has touched many lives with her outstanding ability to see beyond the visible and helping to come to better understanding of issues and their resolutions. An adventurous world traveler, from climbing Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania to exploring the Galapagos Islands, Masha has a particular passion for the City of Angels. Having landed in this paradise and adopted it as her home, she's been sharing old Hollywood stories since 2007. In the mood for California, feel the soul of old Hollywood.
And now, are you ready to feel the soul of Irvine? Once upon a time, in the sun-drenched state of California, there existed a city known as Irvine. Its story is one of ambition, innovation, and the pursuit of an extraordinary vision. Set against the backdrop of vast orange groves and golden hills, Irvine's tale unfolds with the spirit of possibility. Originally, this land was inhabited by the indigenous Gabrielino people who nurtured a deep connection with the earth and its bountiful gifts. However, change arrived when Spanish explorer Gaspar de Portola came in 1769, leaving an indelible mark. With the Spanish came fortresses, missions, and the sounds of cattle herds. The King of Spain granted land for missions and individuals, shaping the destiny of Irvine. Mexico later gained independence, assuming control of the lands and painting dreams on the fertile grounds. 3 vast Spanish-Mexican grants formed the foundation of what would later become the legendary Irvine Ranch, Rancho Santiago de Santa Ana, Rancho San Joaquin, and Rancho Lomas de Santiago. When in the year of 1864, a great drought cast a shadow over the land, 50,000 acres of Rancho San Joaquin was sold to Benjamin and Thomas Flint, Llewellyn Bixby, and James Irvine. The price paid was not merely in dollars, but in hopes and aspirations, as they sought to resolve the burdens of the parched earth. In 1866, 47,000-acre Rancho Lomas de Santiago was added, and in 1868, Rancho Santiago de Santa Ana joined in, having been divided into 3 parts. In 1878, a pivotal chapter unfolded as James Irvine, a figure of vision and ambition, acquired the interests of his partners. For the sum of $150,000, which is almost 4.6 million in today's money, he became the steward of 110,000 acres of sprawling beauty that stretched like a majestic carpet from the vast Pacific Ocean to the flowing Santa Ana River. The passing of James Irvine in 1886 marked a new era as his son, James Irvine II, incorporated the ranch into the formidable Irvine Company, transforming the land with crops and orchards. In 1888, the Santa Fe Railroad paid homage to James Irvine by naming a station after him, and the town of Myford became Irvine in 1914. The Irvine Ranch blossomed over the years, with lima beans flourishing on its fertile soil. During World War II, the ranch land became home to 2 Marine Corps facilities. James Irvine II's passing in 1947 led to his son, Myford, taking over the Irvine Company, opening sections of the ranch for urban development. In 1953, the Irvine Ranch hosted the Boy Scouts of America's National Scout Jamboree. The vibrant spirit of this gathering left a lasting impact on the land, and Jamboree Road, a path that stretched from Newport Beach to the heart of Orange, came into being, forever commemorating the joy and unity of that momentous event. A young Boy Scout named David Sills, who attended the Jamboree, would later return to Irvine as a leader, serving his community as mayor for 4 remarkable terms. Myford Irvine's legacy endured as the University of California sought to establish its presence on the ranch in 1959, with the Irvine Company selling land for a mere $1. Guided by visionary architects and planners, a master plan unfolded, creating a city of destiny with industrial zones, neighborhoods, commerce, and green belts. The residents of Irvine voted to incorporate the city on December 28, 1971, exceeding the original vision and preserving the essence of their cherished home. Today, Irvine thrives as a vibrant hub of innovation born from the toil and vision of its inhabitants. The story of Irvine reverberates with the spirit of a united community where the echoes of ancient tribes, Spanish explorers, and visionary settlers intertwine. It is a haven where dreams are nurtured and destinies unfold, creating a harmonious melody of progress and unity in the tapestry of time. And here we are. Welcome to Irvine. I'm so happy to have wonderful Biff Baker here with me. Biff Harold Baker grew up in East Providence, Rhode Island, with a love for languages, literature, and places. His Ph.D. dissertation in Comparative Literature was on representations of landscape in narrative and painting. After 20 years in education, including a stint teaching Russian at UCI, he joined ALEKS, a tech startup focused on developing an artificially intelligent online system for learning mathematics and other subjects. Biff's wife, Marianna, is an artist working in clay and fabric. His daughter, Anna, designs and produces experimental performances. Now partially retired, he looks forward to spending more time on social activism and community organizing, fiction writing, travel, and exploration. Biff will share with us what it feels like to live in Irvine. Hello, Biff.
Hello, Maria.
How are you?
Fine, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing well, and I was so looking forward to our conversation about Irvine.
Wonderful.
So, Biff, what made you decide to move to Irvine, and how long have you been living there?
I've been living in Irvine since 1989. We've been living in Irvine, my wife and I.
Mm-hmm.
I came here because I got a job at UCI teaching Russian.
Oh,
And I taught Russian at UCI for 8 years. And then I was at UCI another 2 years in the cognitive science department. I'm not a cognitive scientist. I am a Russian specialist, but my job in cognitive science was a non-specialist job. And I was there for another 2 years. We came to UCI for work and stayed there after I was no longer working at UCI. We stayed there for the schools because probably everyone knows that Irvine is known for having an excellent school system, and we had a small daughter. Our daughter Anna was born in 1992, so we were very interested in staying around that school system.
mm-hmm. Very cool. Wow. And how does it actually feel like to live in Irvine? What would you say like the community is like? What vibe does the city exude?
A vibe. Well, we've lived in two very different places. When I worked at UCI, we lived in University Hills, and that is a community very much like other communities in Irvine, except that it is exclusively for people employed at the university.
Mm-hmm.
So, in particular for faculty members, and that, well, you know what university faculty people are like. They're pretty much absorbed by their work, and the vibe is, well, it doesn't vibrate that much in a lot of ways. But once we had a child, that is a couple of years in, then we met people.
Mm-hmm.
And that was sort of the key to our social life at UCI and at University Hills, that once we had a baby, we met other people who had babies, and it went from there. So from that time on, we met a lot of people. Also, I tended to meet people, anyone who was in the community who was Russian speaking, I tended to meet them as well. So those were the two ways that we sort of formed a community. And some of those people have remained our friends up until now, even though we're no longer there. Then we moved to Turtle Rock Meadows, what's now called Turtle Rock Meadows, which is not that far away from University Hills. And it's a neighborhood right on the edge of the wilderness,
Mm-hmm.
if you will. You cross, if you walk maybe 5 minutes from where we live, and you're in the middle of the Chaparral. It's a short walk to Bomber Canyon. And then up the hill from us is a very different neighborhood, the Quail Hill neighborhood. So that's where we are now. And there, the key to making friends and forming community is not so much a baby as it is a dog. So if you go walking a dog, then you will meet other people and form a community. And so that's pretty much how we have tended to make our communities. And there are lots of friendly people around. I won't say anything about the HOAs. I think we all know what HOAs are like, but the people themselves are generally very friendly.
Right, right. Well, I think it totally makes sense because you said when you were living in University Hills, all people who live there are affiliated with UCI. And of course, they are absorbed by their work, and life of, professors are sort of internal. You have to go deep inside and then you go to teach. And it absolutely makes sense that having a child helped you to kind of like get out more. And then it's very interesting how moving to Tolaroc Meadows, actually having a dog became like kind of more helpful for forming your community. That's fascinating. And it actually in many other places, in other areas in Los Angeles, the same story. Like once you have a dog, you're just out there, outgoing and meeting people. So it's kind of like opens the door into the outside world.
Yes.
Very cool. So, how would you describe the overall quality of life in Irvine? And what would you say are the factors that contribute to that?
Well, I think everyone knows that the quality of life in Irvine is super high. Even I'm originally from Rhode Island on the East Coast, and even my friends from Rhode Island tell me that they read about Irvine as an example of a place where the quality of life is extremely high. It's a very safe place, very low level of crime. As I mentioned, great educational system, great schools, and lots of green spaces. It's a decentralized neighborhood. It's a big community, if you will, with lots of specific neighborhoods in different locations, each of them with its own history. But there are lots of green spaces around. And yeah, so it's always on the top of people's list, the best places to live. So there's very little you can say bad about the quality of life in Irvine.
Mm, very interesting. And even people in Rhode Island know about it.
Yes.
Fascinating. Wow. Okay. So, my other question is, have you noticed any changes in Irvine since you first moved there? And you did say you've been living there since 1989. So, there must have been quite a bit of changes.
Yes, the Irvine is changing continually. And I should mention that long before I came to Irvine, my sister, was much older than I am and different generation, she came here with her husband. Her husband also had a brief appointment on the faculty at UCI, but this was in 1970. So this was almost 20 years before I came. My sister was here with her family, and they remember this as essentially a ranch. They said that at night they would hear cows mooing in the distance, and it was all an agricultural area. The university was very small, and there were citrus groves everywhere. Now, I've been there for a long time, and I remember a much smaller version of UCI, a much more compact university. UCI has grown enormously, and the neighborhoods connected with the UCI have grown. The areas, the residential areas of Irvine have also grown, I think probably not quite at the same rate as UCI itself, but it's extending north. There are new neighborhoods being built, and it all sort of depends on the way the economics are heading. But generally speaking, those continue to be built. I remember a time when the main streets were all lined with citrus groves. There were lemons and oranges everywhere. Most of those are gone. You can still see some of them, but most of the neighborhoods around us were there before. So I do remember them. I wouldn't say that it's a super fast growth community. As your listeners probably know, Irvine is a planned community, and it's famous for the kind of planning that went into it. And part of that is to maintain a very high level of livability, to keep the green spaces, for example. Don't wipe out the green spaces, don't grow too fast, and maintain a balance between all of the different elements that make up the city life, that is commercial elements, residential elements, employment. One of the ways in which UCI has grown is that it's extended some areas adjoining the campus that are actually not part of the university. Well, they may be on university territory, but their actual purpose is to provide housing to business developments. So businesses can come and, as it were, live next door to UCI. And I think the hope is that there'll be some kind of synergy from that. When I left UCI, I actually became employed by a startup that got its start in UCI, the ALEKS, ALEKS. It's an online system for mathematics education that has been quite successful. and not long ago was purchased by McGraw-Hill, a big educational publisher. And that was before the age of all of these areas that they have now created around the university for business development. So we were housed in different ways, but now they're doing everything they can to make that easier and to create as much interplay as possible between the business environment and the research that goes on at UCI.
Wow, beautiful. What a smart and positive expansion of the city you just described. Because it looks like, sometimes when cities expand, it doesn't always maintain like the high quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, it seems that all the good things that can happen are happening for Irvine. And you still shared that it is a very safe city,
Mm-hmm.
that the quality of life is high, that the school system is great. And well, bravo to this very planned, very thorough expansion and how the city is growing, and it's really beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So, my other question to you is related to what you like to do for fun. Are there some cultural or recreational activities that are available in Irvine, or maybe like there are some nearby cities that you like to explore as well?
Well, there are lots of cultural activities. UCI does provide its own. It has its own theater, and there is a schedule of cultural activities there. Of course, the Segerstrom Center is not far away from Irvine, and there's a new museum, a new art museum has just been opened near there. Fullerton has its own menu of cultural activities at their university and otherwise. I mean, not far from Irvine is there's a huge number of choices. Where we live in Turtle Rock, I have to mention, and this is specific to Turtle Rock, not necessarily true of Irvine as a whole, but we're right on the edge of the wilderness. So people who like to hike or to get away from city life have tremendous opportunities there. There are many trails, small mountains, hills that you can climb. But I think one of the most important things to note about Irvine is how central it is to many other areas that aren't necessarily in Irvine itself. You're close to the beaches. You're close to Costa Mesa with its bars and live music and nightlife. Oh, and I should mention, yes, even within Irvine itself, we now have a jazz venue. The OC Fish Grill on the corner of Alton and Jeffries now has live jazz, very good live jazz on on Friday and Saturday evenings. I mean, you should check the schedule, but roughly speaking, that's when they have it. And I mean, this is the last thing that I ever expected to see in Irvine, but it has appeared. So, but if you get a little bit away into Costa Mesa or Santa Ana, there's live music. There's a huge selection of restaurants. Of course, the mountains are not far away. Los Angeles is not far away. And I should also mention the desert. It's a short drive from us to the desert areas such as Joshua Tree or Anza Borrego, which are absolutely beautiful and wonderful driving tours that are completely accessible from where we live. So the centrality of Irvine is key to its appeal. We often go to Santa Ana for fun. I happen to spend a lot of time in Santa Ana, and I like it a lot. It's a very sharp contrast to Irvine, a very different type of community, but with a tremendous selection of cultural opportunities, restaurants, bars, that sort of thing. So, and I'll just mention one thing since we're sort of on this topic. Anyone who lives in California owes it to themselves to pick up the California histories written by Kevin Starr, the late Kevin Starr. He died just a few years ago, but previously the official librarian of the state of California. He wrote a 7-volume history of California. If that sounds imposing, that's a mistake. It's not at all imposing. It's extremely readable. It's a super, super fun set of books. And the things that you will learn about the history of California, including places like Orange County, is just inestimable. There's a wealth of entertainment and enlightenment about the place we live, what has been here before, why we are here, how we are here, who was here before us. So that's I'll just make that recommendation. It will improve your appreciation of everything in this area.
Thank you so much for this recommendation. Sounds beautiful. So you said that you prefer to go to Santa Ana for entertainment. So what are your some favorite venues in Santa Ana that you like to frequent?
We go to El Mercado, which is a restaurant there. Well, one of the reasons I go there is community or social organizing activities.
Mm-hmm.
I belong to Episcopal Church of the Messiah in Santa Ana. I've been there for pretty much as long as I've been in California, and they have a long history of social engagement. It is a low income neighborhood. It's a highly impacted neighborhood for a number of reasons, and it would be a separate podcast to describe the ways that we have been engaged with the community in a variety of modalities. And I won't get into that because it is such a long story, but I do spend a lot of time on that. We go to places like El Mercado. Well, I mean, there's a long list of places I could mention. You can start with that one, but there's an art walk first Saturday evening, very lively art scene, many galleries, music on the streets, free salsa dancing lessons on the pedestrian area, good Mexican food everywhere. Yeah, so there's no end of things to do there.
Wonderful, wonderful. And it also sounds that you fulfill your need to serve the community when you go to Santa Ana and you being part of the Episcopal Church. So that is wonderful that you have this outlet for yourself. It's beautiful. And my next question to you is about your home. What does your home mean to you? What would you say is the heart of your home?
Oh my gosh. Well, I spend a lot of time in the heart of the home. Well, my wife is from Russia. We're a Russian-speaking family, and as I'm sure you know, in that culture, life tends to be centered on the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
So the kitchen is much more of a center than say the living room. I mean, I keep wishing that we could somehow find a way to use our living room because it's a nice place. It's a nice room and comfortable, but we somehow that never happens. We always gravitate to the kitchen. I spent a lot of time in my room, which is an office and bedroom. It was originally a child's bedroom, and yeah, I do a lot of work here and writing, and I live here. So, but I guess the heart would be the kitchen.
The heart would be the kitchen. Yes, it does seem the way you describe it because, you are a professor, you studied and continue studying a lot and you teach probably. And your home, in a way, is the place where you kind of like being inside in your own world. And it is when you go out with your dog that you kind of like open up to the community, and you going to Santa Ana is probably this is the outlet where you meet with the community and are able to serve it. Would you say it's true?
Yes, yes. Well, I'm not a professor anymore, unfortunately. I was 20 years ago, but 25 years ago, but not at this point. However, it's still the case that I spend a lot of time doing that kind of work. And I should mention the kitchen has one additional good characteristic, which is that it's right next to a balcony overlooking the street that we're on, which means that it connects us to our neighbors. All of our neighbors are facing that little street, Misty Shadow. And so I think this is different from a lot of neighborhoods in Irvine, that you go out on a balcony, you're actually seeing other people's balconies from there. And you're seeing people who go by on the street or people who go by and walking their dogs, among other things. But not long ago, we had a bunch of friends over for dinner and we were all sitting in the kitchen. And then someone else came by outside, happened to be a Russian-speaking person, and they called up to us and we called down to them and they ended up joining us.
Wow.
And we had this, so we actually had people come in from the street to join us in our kitchen, which is, I'm not sure how typical that is for Irvine, but it's a good feature of of Turtle Rock Meadows where we live,
Oh.
which I think is it's a bit of a more of a denser neighborhood than a lot of places in Irvine. It's a bit more compacted, a bit more intimate, to use, if that word fits, where you see more of your neighbors, I think, than a lot of places.
Wow, what a warm story. Thank you so much for sharing. I love it. So now I have a few blitz questions about your favorite places in Irvine. And my first question is, what is your favorite restaurant in Irvine?
Okay, whenever our daughter is here, we go to Fotasia for the pho. And Fotasia is on the corner of Michelson and University. It's a little small Vietnamese restaurant. Otherwise, if we're going out for ourselves, the most likely we're going to go to El Mercado in Santa Ana. But yeah, but for close to home, for Irvine, Fotasia is a frequent place.
Okay, great. What is your favorite store in Irvine?
Okay, I would say my favorite stores are Target and Barnes and Noble. So you can just go to the Spectrum and get both of those.
Okay, great.
But Target, obviously, Target or Target, as we used to call it, is it's a great place to save money and find almost anything you want. So, and Barnes and Noble is the only remaining bookstore in the area. So yeah, so those are places we go frequently.
Okay, Target and Barnes and Noble it is.
Yes.
Do you ever go to coffee places if you like coffee?
I don't really go out for coffee. I love coffee, but I'm not a coffee snob. My daughter knows coffee very well. I don't know coffee really much at all. For me, the cheapest coffee you can buy in Target is as good as anything else. However, I will mention I do go out for beer. I love beer. And my favorite place is Goat Hill Tavern in Costa Mesa. And you should not, anyone who drops by there should not be intimidated. It looks like a dive bar, and it is, but it's absolutely a friendly place. And they've cleaned it up somewhat since a decade or so ago, but it's still fun. It's still a lot of fun where you can meet people of all different kinds. So Goat Hill Tavern in Costa Mesa.
Okay, Goat Hill Tavern in Costa Mesa. So we're substituting coffee with the beer.
Yes, right. That's basically where I'm at.
Okay, perfect. Is there any place in Irvine where you can take photos that will make the city recognizable right away?
Well, okay. So my answer to this is a little bit ironic. There's a person, an Orange County personality who died in the 80s. And some people know him very well. Other people, I think, will never have heard of him. Philip K. Dick, the science fiction writer. And this is, he should be much better known. He wrote a number of absolutely fascinating science fiction books, including the one that was made into Blade Runner. So many people have seen Blade Runner. They don't know that this comes from a short story by Philip K. Dick. But he lived in different parts of California, but for a lot of his life, he lived in Orange County, in particular in Irvine. I'm sorry, in Santa Ana. He actually died in Santa Ana. Fascinating individual. They made an animated film of one of his books called A Scanner Darkly with Keanu Reeves and a bunch of other well-known actors. And it was, it's an interesting film. It presents Orange County and it presents a typical Orange County neighborhood, which by implication is a typical Irvine neighborhood, in a very, very different way from how we would normally see it. And what they show is at one point they're driving down the 405 and they show the malls at the Y where the 405 meets the 5. There's a cluster of malls and big box stores and that sort of thing. And the film drives past that area. And I think that's probably the most, I'm sorry to be a little bit ironic about this, but that's probably the most recognizable view of Irvine that I can come up with. And if you watch the film, you'll immediately recognize that.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, that's a great answer. I love it.
And read Philip K. Dick. He's
Yes, Philip K. Dick, Blade Runner. It's such a famous movie, and I'm sure people will be very interested to follow up and read on the short story.
Total Recall. Total Recall is also a film based on one of his stories.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you, Biff. And my last question to you, where can you see the best sunset in Irvine?
You would climb the hills in Turtle Rock to see a good sunset. There's especially right behind Bonita Canyon Elementary School is a very tall, steep hill with a trail going up it. And although the trail is quite steep, you can, if you're careful and go slowly, pretty much anyone can get up to the top. And there's an absolutely beautiful view from the top of that hill. I remember we even did that hike with my mother-in-law many years ago. It seems impossible, but she made it. And once you get up on top, there's sort of a flat area, and you can sit on a rock and watch the sunset. Of course, I wouldn't want to go down that trail in total darkness. So if you're going up at sunset, I would bring a little flashlight.
Well, that sounds absolutely wonderful. And thank you so much, Biff, for sharing your life and your experience in Irvine and your experience of Irvine, and sharing all these wonderful places and mentioning all the cities nearby, and such interesting recommendations that you shared. Kevin Starr and Philip K. Dick, and mentioning your favorite places in the area. Thank you so much for providing such wonderful information to our listeners. And Irvine, with its high quality of life and great educational system, and being as safe as you described it, seems as a very, very attractive place to live.
Yep, I would say so.
Thank you, Biff. I appreciate it, and I'll talk to you later.
All righty, take care. Thank you.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you very much for tuning in to Feel and Experience Irvine with my special guest, Biff Baker. If you enjoy my podcast, In the Mood for California, please sign up for future episodes at your preferred platform, and please leave your feedback. I really appreciate your time and support. You can follow me on Instagram at In the Mood for California, and check out my website, www.inthemoodforcalifornia.com. Selling and buying homes with soul is not just my real estate strategy. It is an intuitive and holistic approach that embraces your values, aspirations, and conscious intentions. If you want to discover the power of mindfulness in your real estate journey with my compassionate guidance, I'm here for you. Next time, we're traveling to San Francisco. Looking forward to seeing you there.
In the Mood for California, feel the soul of Old Hollywood.